Hi everyone, it's Caroline here from Ascending Angels, and today I am joined by Damien Nola, and together over the course of the next year we are going to be running an Elixir of Life home study course, which I'm quite excited about actually. Hi Damien, how you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. Beautiful to be here with you. Very excited to be in collaboration and offering this course with you.
It's exciting, isn't it? Yeah. So the Elixir of Life is a 12-month course. And each month we're going to be offering a transmission that connects in with a different planet, star, sun, across our solar system. And I believe we're starting this month. April. We're not into April yet. Goodness me. So we're starting in April and we're going to be starting with the sun energy transmission.
So, yes, so we'll be starting on, I believe it's April the 11th.
Yeah.
And that will run over 3 days. So the first day we will be offering the transmission of the sun. And this really relates to a focus of opening to our inner wisdom, our inner light, our clear seeing of reality, what it is to really shine from our core. So in terms of how that practically impacts you within life, if you think of what it is that you experience when you hide your light, when you keep yourself small, when you're hiding behind your masks, when you are keeping yourself safe, you're really in that focus of survival consciousness. And then you think about how it is that you are in life when you really are in that space of openness, honesty, authenticity, connection. You're really allowing your light to shine. You're really in a space of clarity, of clear seeing of reality. You're really in that space of connection to what we could call your inner light, your core, your authentic essence, or divinity. And in terms of what we mean by a transmission, if you think of this simply in terms of, we could use the analogy of like a Reiki attunement, for example. So if you were to come for a Reiki session, you would receive a healing, and that would transform your energy system. It would transform your consciousness in a certain way. And of course, that's a beautiful experience to have, but it's different to an attunement or a transmission. A transmission or an attunement is actually giving you a permanent healing tool that you can then go on to utilize within your life for yourself or for others. And each of the months that formulate the home study program as a whole will be offering a different transmission. And we'll speak about that a little later, but to focus here now primarily just on this first month and the energy of the sun. So we've spoken a little about what we'll be offering on the first day in terms of the transmission or attunement. And then moving into the second day, this will be more a practical focus of simple teachings that relate to the core theme of the month. So looking at the sun, we're looking at that relationship with your own inner light, that relationship with truth, that relationship with bringing clarity into your life, and what it really means to live from that and to embody that. And so these simple teachings, which will be offered, will just offer you a deeper understanding on a mental level, so to speak, in terms of how you can actually practically address the challenges within your life from this place of a connection to that inner light. And then on the third day, we'll move into a group healing, which will be offered to transform any challenges that you may have around a particular situation or issue in your life that is creating you to feel disconnected from that light, unable to really bring it out into the world. And each month will follow that 3-day format. So on the first day, we'll offer a transmission attunement. On the second day, we'll offer simple teachings, practical advice in terms of really living in the world from this deeper place of connection to your true essence, to freedom. And then on the third day, we'll offer that group healing. Did you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, so the first day is really about actually receiving that transmission and really getting that energy flowing through the body. And that all the days are all recorded as well. So if you're not able to connect in live, you'll still receive that transmission, yet you can go and listen to the recording in your own time, in your own space. And then obviously day 2 is like questions and answers, and actually really understanding what the transmission is, and sort of working of how it's going to interact within our lives, I guess. And then the day 3 is the healing, is this the group work, us all working together. And I guess it's not also about Damien and I kind of leading it. We're facilitating and holding the space and bringing that in, but everybody's also, you know, we're not the teachers, with the space holders, because we're all teachers, we're all guides, we're all working together. And it's a really lovely space to be in, and kind of being authentic and empowering oneself as well. So we're starting with the sun, and we're working through and bringing that transmission in, and the concept around that sort of the solar system, for me, and with the Elixir of Life, what I've kind of really found from it is that it's, you know, we think about ourselves as being born here upon the earth, but actually energetically we're much older than that, and everything originates from the sun. Everything was birthed, our whole planetary system was all birthed from the sun. So we're really starting at the beginning of everything. And then we're working through, so each month we're working through different planets, but they're all kind of grouped together in modules. So we've got three modules of I'm going 3 modules, which each have 4 transmissions. So over the course of 4 months, we have these each module, and people can connect in and do a single transmission and not do the whole course as well, can't they? Or they can do a module that is like, if you're guided to just connect in with a certain planet or connect in with a certain group of planets for a module, then that's great too, because these are all independent transmissions, yet connected together to form a whole course.
Yeah, so just picking up on what you've shared there, particularly in terms of how it is that myself and Caroline are really simply just space holders here, rather than being in a position of teacher. The primary focus that's really coming through the Elixir of Life as a complete course is centered around that focus of empowerment. So it's not teaching you to do what we do. It's really teaching you, for want of a better word, to connect with your own inner light, that authentic expression that arises from that place of being centered in the direct experience of who you truly are. And that really arises from that place of this first transmission, this connection with the sun. And that's why we start there. If you think of the sun as being the core of our solar system, you can also think of it as being the energetic core of our own subtle energetic system, the core of our consciousness, the core of our being. And it's really awakening that core light within us, that core frequency. Some people refer to that as the soul, some people refer to that as the higher self, some people refer to that as divine presence. And there they're really just talking about different levels of consciousness that one relates to and that can open through one's energy system to be expressed. So usually in life, we're acting more from the level of our personality and all of its conditioning, of our belief systems, of our views around ourselves, the world, others, etc., etc. When we open to this inner light or this core light that this solar transmission is supporting us to bridge into, what we begin to find is that that begins to fall away. And we open into a deeper experience of the truth of who we are. And that then begins to bridge through the personality. So it's not that the personality falls away and disappears and we become these bland people that don't have any type of personality. It's much more so that what we could term as being the egoic personality, the conditioned personality, the masks that we wear in order to navigate through life from that place of survival consciousness fall away. And so we become much more authentic within relationship with ourselves and with others. And of course, that transforms our experience of life. We're much more open to intimacy, much more open to actually being present with life. So in terms of giving you a deeper understanding of how this practically impacts upon your life, again, to come back to the point that was made a little earlier, if you think of how it is that you are in life when you're in that place of feeling disconnected from yourself, feeling shut down, feeling in survival, trying to keep yourself safe, and how you are in life when you are open. And I'm sure you've all had experiences of that, or glimpses of that, even if very rare ones, or perhaps you've had much more of an experience of that. What it is, then somehow something within you opens. And rather than being in that place of feeling defended, walled off, shut, suddenly you're here, you're present, you're open, you're connected. Really, that's what this solar transmission is bringing in. So as an achievement or transmission in terms of working with that in a healing space, because as we shared on the first day, we'll be bringing in an achievement. You think of what this solar ray brings in, it's really bringing in that focus of healing of what fundamentally keeps us within that space of struggle within our lives. From a spiritual perspective, the core root of our experience of suffering really comes from that place of being disconnected from the truth of who we are. If we look at the world in large, we can see how much suffering is perpetuated in the world from that place. And equally, we can see the depth of compassion that is present in the world from a place that arises when we are connected to that truth of who we are. And what else to say around that? I think that sums it up.
Yeah, so it's about being more comfortable in our authentic selves and actually kind of shifting the sort of veils of illusion, I guess, of how we see our lives and the world around us, and seeing it with more clarity, I guess, and more truth. And it's parts of the sun is the very first transmission of the whole course, but it's also the first transmission of the first module. And remind me, Damien, what's the first module about?
So the first module is absolutely centered around that opening, centered around that opening to our inner light. And so as we shared, there are 4 transmissions within that. So we begin with the solar transmission, and then we move into a focus of relationship with Venus. And Venus has traditionally been associated with the heart and with love and with mother. And so if we think of our first relationship in life really being with mother, and how it is that that impacts upon our whole experience of life. And so this Venusian transmission is coming in to really bring in what we could call the optimal expression of mother, that expression that is free from our conditioned experience of mothering. Because however well-intentioned our mothers may be, we're karmic humans, we have our stuff. It happens.
I own that. I'm a mum.
It happens in that respect. And so this transmission is coming in to transform that. So we can really come into right relationship with what it is to really embody that essence of mother. And when we look at the essence of mother, we're looking at that in terms of what it is really to embody that essence of compassion, that essence of love, first and foremostly for ourselves, and then ultimately, obviously, for all beings in relationship to that. And so we're looking at all of those places within where there's a sense of disconnection from that, where there's a sense of feeling unable to hold that focus of mothering for ourselves and that whole focus of love for ourselves. And that Venusian transmission really brings what we could term as being like a healing balm to that. What it is when we really feel held, supported, nurtured. And then we move into relationship with Mars, which is the father energy. And so similar focus in terms of what we've spoken about with Venus, but in relationship to that masculine energy. And then Mars has also traditionally been seen as the warrior. And so what it is really to become the peaceful warrior, what it is to lay down our struggle, our fight with life. Very often we're in deep resistance to life, and we are trying to control or manipulate life, or we're very deeply in our sense of resistance and no. And of course that creates a lot of stress, a lot of tension, which impacts upon all levels of our life. And so what it is when we really come into that space of peace and to live from that within the world. And then we move into relationship with the earth. And so what it is to really be grounded and present here. So many of us can live in that kind of transcendent type state where we're not really present in life, or we're in that space of avoidance. And so the earth transmission is really supporting us to recognize here as home, and being supported by that energy of Venus and Mars, and then the sun as well. So that focus of we are connected to our inner light, to our authentic expression. We're connected to those templates of mother and father, and rooted and grounded, present here. So that's the first module that we'll be exploring. And then the second module enters into a deep karmic clearance. And so through the first module, we've had this deep opening to inner light. And then the second module comes into that space of how all of that light is then integrated and embodied through the form. And for that to take place, whatever veils or obscures that light has to move, be transformed, because we can have this powerful opening to the light, but that still has to obviously move through the form.
Yep.
And move through all of our conditioning, etc., etc. So, if that conditioning is in place, well, that light can be moving through us, but it's moving through that conditioning as well. And so it's, I suppose you could say it's like we've opened to the light, and now we're cleaning the old window.
Yeah, so we've laid the groundwork there, haven't we, with the first module? And as you were talking about it, I kind of got an image of a person and the sun sort of being there, and then the Venus being on one side and Mars being on the other, and then the Earth being beneath the feet. So a real sort of almost like a diamond, I guess, across over the body, but a real kind of balancing the mother, the father, the masculine, feminine, balancing that connection with Earth, balancing our connection with our divine self, divine presence, higher self, whatever we want to call it, that sun aspect, and bringing that through and into the body. So actually that in itself is really powerful, because it's really grounding and really clearing that mother father wounds that are there as well. And then we start to get a little bit more into the depth of things as we work through the second module.
So the second module, we begin with Saturn. So Saturn has traditionally been associated with the wheel of time, with karma. And so we're moving into that focus of relationship with time. And we think of time as being a becoming. So we become in time. And that whole cycle of life and death. So all of that is really bound up within our egoic focus of experience. Our ego needs time to become something. And all of our becoming is really rooted within that sense of lack. That sense of the ego is one day going to become enlightened. One day it's going to become bigger, brighter, better. And so when we really bring in that focus of the Saturn transmission, we are breaking through that experience of, we'll call it the illusion of time, for want of a better description. And so we're moving really into that timeless state of being, where there is nothing to become. And that moves us deeply into an experience of the isness of life. And on a practical level, that really moves us into the experience of being enough. And we are enough. This is enough. And of course, that doesn't mean that we can't go on and achieve our goals within life. Again, we're not just sat there just going, oh, well, this is enough and everything is fine. And so there's nothing to achieve. But it's coming from a place that is not egoically driven. When we're in that space of the egoic focus and we're trying to achieve from that, more often than not, it's really coming from that place of survival, that place of lack, that place of status, etc., etc. When we are really rooted in that deep place of just the isness of life or beingness, there's that natural flow with life. There's that natural flow of response to life. And also in terms of the Saturn transmission, there is the freedom from the karma that may inhibit us from stepping into that. There's freedom from that past conditioning. There's that habitual response mechanisms to life where we think that we're making free action, but we're really just acting out from past patterns of behavior and just perpetuating that. And then we move into a focus of relationship with, I'm just trying to remember the missions in the second sequence. So we have Saturn.
Pluto? Was it Pluto?
Yes, thank you. We have our relationship with Pluto that opens. And so Pluto represents the deep unconscious. In some traditions, it's also seen as Hades. So it could be seen, or equally speaking, to represent the underworld, the shadow self, those parts of ourselves that we, in a manner of speaking, blind ourselves to. So it's really supporting us to see our blind spots in life and to navigate through those. Pluto, in some traditions, is also seen as being the power behind the throne. So it really opens us into what we could call hidden power or true power, which really comes from that space of a deep surrender to life. You know, often we think of power as being power over or the power to. And that's really our conditioned egoic sense of power. When we really open to the experience of true power, we recognize it to be that which comes from our space of openness to life and flow with life. Pluto in some traditions is also seen as Shiva. So it's that transformative, destructive process that comes in to destroy, transform our egoic patterns. And then we move into a focus of relationship with, I believe it's Ceres and Charon. So Charon is traditionally seen as the ferryman on the river Styx in the underworld. So it's that energy that takes us into that process of a transformation of our fundamental forgetting of our true nature. The story or the legend goes that to drink from the waters of the river Styx is to forget. And so using that analogy, using that symbolism, working with Charon, we are bridging in a transformation of that fundamental forgetting of our true nature. So it brings us back into a relationship with what comes through the solar transmission. Again, it's that deeper focus of a connection to our core light. Because even with that opening to our core light, because of all of this conditioning that's in the system, we can still get pulled out of that into a forgetting of that. So we have that opening within us, and that's always present through that transmission, but life happens and we get pulled out of that into the drama, into our conditioning, into our mind spin. And so the Charon transmission, coupled with the transmissions that are held within this particular module, that transformation of our karma, is really supporting us to be more deeply centered within that inner light, to really recognize what creates us to forget that, to be pulled into the drama of life. It's bringing us back to that inner light, going, oh, you've forgotten that. You've forgotten that. You've forgotten that. Come back, center yourself. And then this Ceres transmission, Ceres is traditionally associated with Demeter, who's also can be seen as Gaia. And so it's associated with the abundance of life and what it is to really live abundantly, what it is to really live in deep relationship with the earth, deep relationship with the form. And so again, it's that focus, it comes back to what was shared in the first module with the earth transmission. It's a deeper opening into relationship with the earth mother, with form, with life here. Often we can think of the spiritual path as a kind of focus of transcendence, but it's really much more, in truth, being present here, living here. And so the Ceres transmission bridges that in. It bridges us into a deep focus of relationship with how it is we are in life when we feel comfortable in our bodies, comfortable in form. For many of us, there's the experience of not feeling comfortable here, not feeling comfortable with our bodies, not feeling comfortable with the physical experience of life. And so in practical terms, you can look at the Ceres transmission as really being one which brings in that sense of this is your home, and what it is to really be here in the body, what it is to really allow that light to move fully through the form, to really move fully through the body. And as Caroline was sharing earlier, if we think of each of the modules or transmissions as sitting in different areas of the energy system. So in terms of the first module, the sun sitting here, the earth sitting beneath the feet, and Mars and Venus on either side. There's also a similar energetic that takes place within relationship to the transmissions that come in through this second module. And you can think of that in terms of this energy of the sun really moving down through the crown chakra, moving down into the root, coming into the feet. And so what it is to really embody the light here, to really bring that into form. And so that's a brief description of the second module. Is there anything else you wanted to share around that?
I loved that. That was great. And I could see that. I could visualize when you were talking about the different planets, how it was kind of interweaving across as well. And, you know, every time I feel connecting with Saturn, it always feels quite feminine again. And when I connecting with Pluto, it again has a masculine essence to it, which again kind of rebridges through, and as it all sort of drops into the system and really bringing that awareness into ourselves. And you know, the whole sort of I am enough, I allow the abundance, I want to be here and be present and enjoy this life experience. I think it's all about really kind of bringing that on board and letting go within the kind of transmissional space, letting go of all that stuff that we've carried, that we've learned, that, you know, it's carried through our genetics, through our ancestry, through our karmic patterning of not being enough, that kind of the lack that is there. So we're really starting to feel safe by being grounded. Yeah, so when we're grounded, we're actually feeling safe and not feeling that fear of being here upon the earth, but also safety within interacting with each other, and allowing our truth, our true self, our authentic self to be seen and to shine, because it's enough. And then when we make our plans, when we think about what we want for the future, we're thinking of it in a place of abundance, of I can do this because I am enough, rather than having to try and persuade ourselves that we are able to achieve. There's like almost an ownership of, yeah, no, I can do this. I'm there. I'm great. I'm great here, and I'm going to be great there. I am enough, without it kind of feeding into that egoic self, because ultimately the egoic self is the one that has the lack, and it's constantly trying to persuade itself that the lack isn't there. So when we take the lack away, the ego within itself kind of dissolves. Yeah,
Absolutely.
fabulous. So, and then we move on to the third module.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we kick off.
All is really about, as you were saying, living from that place. It begins with Neptune, which traditionally has been seen as the mystic. And so the mystic is one that lives from that deep place of communion with the divine in a grounded, embodied fashion. And so Neptune has also been traditionally seen as connected with the ocean, connected with the realm of dreams, the realm of the subconscious. And so what is it that one wants to dream into life? What is it that one wants to manifest from that place of deep connection with one's true nature? And so it's that deep letting go of what we have egoically dreamed for our life, from that place of survival consciousness, from that place of lack, from that place of this is how my life should look. And when we're in that place, how we are in resistance to life. And so Neptune takes us into that deep space of flow with life. We think of flow as related to that watery Neptunian energy. It's what happens when we are flowing with the river of life. And so I'm sure, again, all of you have experienced moments where you really feel yourself in the flow. You really feel yourself connected, and moments when you don't feel that as much. I'm sure we've all had myself too.
Yeah.
So that's my phone going off. Please excuse me while I switch that off. Apologies. Sorry about that. And so, prime example, being in the flow, phone coming in. So that Neptunian energy, bringing us into that experience of flow with life, bringing us into that experience of deep surrender, that experience of the mystic. And then we move into the energies of Mercury, Mercury relating to communication, and Mercury relating to what we call the word and language. So if we think of language as being the means by which we define objects, we define this is this, this is this, this is this. Through that mercurial energy, we begin to transform that. So we begin to see in a deeper fashion beyond how it is that we have defined life or shaped life. We can also think of Mercury as relating to the mind. So how it is that we live within the realm of mind, and we see life as being this, 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 or that. As the Mercury transmission comes in, we're really opening into the experience of what it is to transcend the mind. And the mystic also lives within this place that is free from mind, free from those fixed, assumed assumptions within relationship to life, and this is the way things are. And Mercury also opens us into clear communication. It opens us into that space of communicating truth. And very often in life, we don't say what we mean, or we are telling white lies, or lies even. All of us do it, myself included. We just do. You know, it's part and parcel of our survival mechanism and how we've learned to survive. We've learned not to tell the truth and not to be authentic in order to protect ourselves because of what we believe what's what I'm looking for? Talking about words. What is what I'm looking for? The consequences. That's what I'm looking for. Thank you. Will be of expressing our authenticity within life. And so Mercury is coming in and transforming that. So we can see how all of the transmissions work with one another, build upon one another. There's also this particular quality that comes in through the transmissions that are shared within the first module and the second module. But here we're bringing it in from a different angle, so to speak. And so we're deepening what has come through those transmissions that have been shared in the first and second module. Each of them are a puzzle piece, so to speak, building upon one another. And then we move into the energy of Uranus, which has traditionally been seen as the magician. And Uranus can also in many ways be seen as order within chaos. And so what it is to be centered, aligned, really present within that core focus of connection with the light, amidst the chaos of our daily experience of life, and what it is to really remain centered and balanced within that, rather than to be drawn into the chaos. And in many traditions, this is also seen as riding the dragon. So if the dragon is seen as that chaos, what it is to really tame the dragon, and that dragon energy, which is that primal life force energy within us. In many traditions, it's seen as Shakti. It's that primal creative energy that the magician is in deep focus of relationship with, not from a place of trying to control it or manipulate it, but from a place of deep surrender into that, a deep communion with that primal creative energy of life. Uranus brings that in. It brings us into an experience of the magic of life. When we think of magic, we obviously have many ideas around what that means.
Hollywood.
And it's not the Hollywoodized magic. It's really that deep focus of, if we think of how creation comes into manifestation, that's magic. If we think of the miracle of how it is that I'm even able to communicate with you, and you're able to hear my words and understand them, that's magic. And so it's really dropping us into that deep experience of the magic that is at the heart of life. Because we take for granted that I'm speaking and you can hear me. And it's like, oh yeah, that's nothing special. But if we actually really look at that, it's a complete and utter miracle. It blows the mind if we really actually sit in that. It really brings us into that space of what we touched upon in terms of the Neptunian transmission, that mindless state of being. And then we move into the energy of Jupiter, which is all about expansion, all about innovation, all about what it is to really be open to the new. And so when we're in this space of egoic identification, we're living in time. We're always living out of the past and our history and our karma. And we're always living from that place of looking to the future, looking to fulfill ourselves. Jupiter brings us into a space of innovation, from that space of being deeply centered into connection with our inner light. So as Caroline was touching upon, creating from that space of surrender into our Dharma, into right action, into right relationship with life. And it's really opening us into a realm of new possibility and new potential and new growth. And so that formulates the third module. And then we end with a 13th transmission coming back to the moon. And if we think of the moon as having 3 phases or faces, and then a 4th hidden face. So we talk about it in terms of the waxing moon, the waning moon, the full moon, and the new moon. This brings us back to those 3 modules. So in terms of the waxing moon, with the moon growing, we are stepping through that focus of the first module. We're opening into our inner light. And we think about the, the waning moon. The light is decreasing. We're opening to that focus of an experience of that clearing of karma through the second module. With the full moon, we're really opening into that experience of the third module, that full focus of an embodiment of our inner light. And then the 4th phase, the new moon, where the light is hidden, we're really opening into that experience of connection with the deep mystery, with the void. And traditionally, the moon has also been associated with the Greek goddess Hecate. And Hecate is seen as being represented by 3 particular symbols. So she's seen as being represented by a torch, a dagger, and a set of keys. And so the torch is really symbolizing that focus of illumination, that focus of connection with the light. The dagger is associated with that cutting away of illusion, that cutting away of karma. And the keys are that focus of the opening of doorways into new potential, into new life. And so the moon transmission is really bridging that in. It's bridging in the entirety of the focus of what's been shared through all of the other transmissions. So to use the analogy of the various different ingredients that one would utilize to make a cake, we can think of each of the transmissions as being one particular ingredient. And then they all come together to formulate the cake, which is fundamentally different from each of the ingredients, but contains each of the ingredients within itself. And so when we bring through the moon transmission, we're really bringing in something that is unique, something that is a unified combination of all of the other transmissions, contains all of them within itself, but because of the process through which each of those transmissions combine and weave with one another, offers you something new in that respect. The lunar transmission also takes us into a deep focus of relationship with the sun, where we began. If we think of the moon as being that which reflects the light of the sun, so the moon has no light, essentially speaking, of its own. It's only illuminated, we only see it as being illuminated because of how it's reflecting that light of the sun. And so if we think of the egoic nature of our being as essentially having no light of its own, and it only appearing as real because of the light that is shone through it. When we open to the essence of the moon, we're really opening into a deeper focus of the understanding of that, the focus of an understanding of what it is that gives reality. What makes this real? So we're really opening to that focus of a bridging of reality through the unreal, through the illusion, the embodiment of that. And that again comes through those three gifts that we touched upon earlier. So that essence of the torch, that essence of illumination, that essence of bringing the light into form, that essence of the dagger, that cutting through illusion, that essence of the keys which open us into new potentials, new possibilities within life. This is also seen in the Christian tradition through the virgin birth. That virgin birth being the birth of something completely transcendent into form, that coming of light into form. The crucifixion, which is that energy of the dagger. It's that energy of that transcendence of death. And then the resurrection, which is that energy of the key, that coming into a new life. And so that's really what's embodied through that lunar transmission. That completes the course.
It's amazing, isn't it? I love that. So yeah, so there is a bonus moon transmission at the end of the course, and yeah, so it's actually 13 months, not 12. 13 transmissions each month, starting in April with the sun. And as Damien said, each transmission is like an activation, like an attunement. So it really does shift and work through the body, and one will experience a clearing process from it. And it will, you know, if you're an energy worker, you're going to experience a shift, and your energy is going to shift, and you're going to be working more with the energy, with your energy. And it's a real kind of, it's an elixir of life, a real journey through the solar system, yet a journey through the self and through one's divine presence, and really bringing that divinity, that kind of higher self, and grounding it through the body and allowing it to bring a healing, a clearing, and then a practical application of, you know, that last module was really a practical application of actually how to use this energy in our everyday lives, and how to get the most out of our everyday lives with who we are, with our divine essence, with our divine presence. I'm excited. Are you excited?
I'm very excited to begin. It's going to be a beautiful, beautiful journey.
Yeah.
Yes, 13 months.
13 months.
And you are welcome to, as Caroline has shared, to join us for individual transmissions, or welcome to join us for 1, 2, or 3 modules, or for the entire course. It's really your decision how deep you are wanting to go within your process, which transmissions call to you. Each transmission builds upon the one that precedes it. And so if you want to go deep within your process, we'd invite you to the whole journey. Whereas if you feel that there is something that really calls to you for a particular transmission, we'd invite you to that. So to sit with that in relationship to your own inner wisdom. And what is it that calls to you? What is it that's going to most deeply support you within your own inner journey and process? In that sense, all of the further details can be found on either my own website, awakeningheart.co.uk, or Caroline's website.
ascendingangels.com.
And we look forward to hearing from you. If you have any questions, do feel free to write to either of us. You can again do that through our websites. And we begin on April the 11th.
Yay.
Solar transmission. Much love.
Lovely. Thank you very much.